Here is the proof of your embezzlement, Vivienne.
The word hits me, like a slap across heated marble. Terminated. Vivienne's Louboutin heels have stopped clicking. She stands 3 feet away, close enough that I can smell her perfume. Jo Malone, pear and freesia, the same scent grandmother wore for 40 years. The lobby has gone silent. Conversations die mid-sentence. Coffee cups pause halfway to lips. Somewhere behind me, a bellhop's cart stops rolling. 7 minutes. That's what it came down to. My polyester uniform scratches against my collarbone, where the tag rubs wrong. 46 days of wearing this fabric, and my skin still hasn't adjusted. The chandeliers throw warm gold across Italian marble that costs more per square foot than most people's monthly rent. I know exactly what it costs. I signed the invoice. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. Vivienne's voice carries. She wants it to carry. Her fingers are wrapped around a leather portfolio. My employee file. And her jaw is set in that particular way that says she's enjoying this. 3 infractions in 46 days. The Bellamy Grand maintains standards. The guests have stopped pretending not to watch. A woman in designer silk lowers her phone. A man in a hand-tailored suit has paused by the concierge desk, briefcase forgotten at his feet. They're waiting to see if I'll cry, if I'll beg, if I'll cause the kind of scene that makes for good stories at dinner parties. I don't give them that. The elevator chimes behind Vivienne. I watch the doors open, watch Callum step out. Coffee in hand, already moving toward the executive wing for the quarterly board meeting. Watch him freeze when he sees the security guards flanking me. Watch his hands curl into fists at his sides. Vivienne, his voice is quiet. Controlled. What's happening? Staff management. She doesn't look at him. Nothing that concerns you? She's been here 6 weeks. This is my job. Now she looks. Something passes between them. A marriage conversation happening without words. His defiance. Her fury. And underneath both, something dying. Unless you'd like to explain to the board why you're intervening on behalf of a housekeeper, the silence stretches. I can feel everyone calculating. The guests, the staff, Francesca behind the front desk staring at the floor like it might open up and swallow her. Even the security guards seem uncomfortable. Shifting their weight, nobody knows who I am. That's the point. 7 minutes late because a train stalled between stations and the service entrance keypad was down for maintenance, forcing me through the main doors. And now, Vivienne Ashford is firing me in the lobby of my own hotel. My grandmother's portrait hangs 3 floors above us. The board she assembled meets in a conference room I decorated. Every contract that keeps Vivienne employed sits in a filing cabinet, with my signature at the bottom. She could have called me into an office. She could have handled this quietly, but she wanted an audience. She wanted witnesses. She wanted me to feel exactly as small as she believes I am. I should be angry. I should be devastated. Instead, I smile. Of course, Mrs. Ashford, there's something in my locker I need to collect. My voice doesn't waver. I appreciate your dedication to the hotel standards. Her eyes narrow. This isn't the reaction she expected. Tears. Maybe a trembling chin. The quiet humiliation of someone who needs this job more than their dignity. Instead, she gets a smile, and perfect posture, and a woman who looks like she's about to walk into a business meeting, not out of a career. I turn before she can respond. The service elevator is 30 feet away. I walk toward it with my back straight, my chin level, grandmother's voice in my head. Let them build high enough to fall. Little one, let them reveal exactly who they are. Behind me, I hear Callum's voice. Low, urgent, words I can't make out. I hear Vivienne's response, sharp as broken crystal. I hear what sounds like a door closing, though no door has moved. Their marriage. That's the door. Closing in real time while guests pretend to check their phones and staff pretend to work. The last thing I see before the elevator doors close is Mrs. Henderson, chairwoman of the board, grandmother's bridge partner for 30 years. She sets down her cup with a porcelain click that echoes across marble. That poor woman, she says, her voice carrying with the practiced projection of someone who has commanded attention in rooms like this for decades. She's not looking at me. She's looking at Vivian. Just made the biggest mistake of her life. The doors close.
There's something about watching someone powerful choose to become invisible. That tells you everything about what they're really searching for. My name is Mr. Harlan. I collect stories like the one Senna is about to share. Stories about what people become when they believe no one important is watching. That's the cruelty, isn't it? Not the firing itself. Terminations happen. Sometimes fairly, often not. The cruelty is being erased, treated like furniture, like background noise in your own story. Senna's grandmother built the Bellamy Grand from nothing, signed her first deed in sensible shoes, wore a maid's uniform herself for 15 years before anyone called her ma'am. She understood something most people born into power never learn. You discover who people really are when they think no one important is watching. Tonight, Senna shares what she discovered during 46 days of invisibility in the building her grandmother built. If you believe everyone deserves to be seen, to have their stories heard, please subscribe to join our Hearth family. These stories matter, because the people in them matter. Senna, take us back to where this began. How did a billionaire become invisible in her own hotel?
Thank you, Mr. Harlan. To understand that moment in the lobby, you need to understand my grandmother. The letter arrived 3 days after her funeral. Her lawyer delivered it personally. Wouldn't trust it to mail. Wouldn't even trust a courier. Just showed up at my apartment with a manila envelope and eyes that said he already knew what was inside. Grandmother's handwriting, shaky near the end, but still elegant, still commanding. When I am gone, you will inherit everything. The hotel, the properties, the foundation. The board will expect you to step into my role immediately. Do not. I read those 2 words 3 times. Do not. Instead, I want you to watch. Become invisible in your own building. Wear the uniform I wore. Walk the halls I walked. See what I saw before anyone knew my name. The staff will tell you more with their silence than any report ever could. Management will reveal themselves when they believe no one important is watching. Give them time, little one. Let the rot show itself. Let the cruelty surface. Let them build high enough to fall. Then, and only then, decide who stays. 6 weeks ago, I walked into the Bellamy Grand's HR office. I met with Terrence, the general manager and the only person grandmother trusted with the truth. He processed the paperwork himself, creating a file for a Senna with no last name, bypassing the background checks that would have revealed my identity. The elevator descended on that first day. Persian carpets gave way to industrial gray tile somewhere around the 8th floor. By the time the doors opened onto the basement level, the world had changed completely. Fluorescent tubes hummed overhead, casting everything in that sickly greenish light that makes even healthy people look exhausted. The air smelled different down here. Bleach, and lavender, and industrial soap, the particular exhaustion of people who spend their days making luxury invisible. I was assigned a locker, given a uniform, handed a supply cart, and I started watching. The strange thing about invisibility, you start seeing everything. My locker was in the back corner of the basement. Dented metal, painted a shade of beige that had probably been optimistic 30 years ago. I'd chosen it specifically because no one wanted it. Too far from the break room, too close to the boiler that clanked at odd hours. Perfect for someone who needed privacy. Inside, I kept a leather folder, 46 days of documentation, names, dates, incidents, each page filled with my handwriting. Cramped, careful, nothing like the elegant script grandmother had taught me on Saturday afternoons. This was different. This was evidence. Day 3, Esperanza reprimanded for speaking to a guest in her native language, even though the guest had initiated the conversation. Day 7, Dominique sent home without pay for wearing her hair in a style Vivienne deemed unpolished. Day 12, a housekeeper named Renata written up for excessive breaks. 2 bathroom trips during an 8-hour shift. Day 19, a woman named Camille terminated for attitude problems. Her attitude problem? She'd asked for the day off for her daughter's graduation. 2 weeks in advance. Denied. I circled each name in black ink, but Vivian's name, the one that appeared on every incident report, every termination notice, every complaint, I circled in red. The pattern was impossible to miss once you were looking for it. Vivian Ashford hadn't earned her title. She'd purchased it through marriage. Callum's mother had insisted on a prenup that included a position for her new daughter-in-law. Director of Guest Experience, a made-up title for a woman who had never experienced a day of service work in her life. But she'd learned quickly how to wield power over people who couldn't fight back. Her particular cruelty had a pattern. She targeted specific employees, women, mostly, the ones she found threatening, the ones who were young and pretty and existed anywhere near her husband. Refinement. She called it maintaining standards. I called it what it was. Documented, cataloged, waiting. The supply closet door opened one afternoon during my 3rd week, and I heard crying before I saw who it was. Esperanza. 22 years at the Bellamy Grand. She'd started the same year grandmother signed the deed. She'd known grandmother, had cried at her funeral, had pressed my hand and said your grandmother was a saint. She didn't know who I was now. We'd never actually met during grandmother's lifetime. I'd been away at boarding schools, then college, then working abroad. Just another new maid in polyester. Her tears caught the fluorescent light as she sank onto a crate of cleaning supplies. The sound she made wasn't loud. She'd learned to cry quietly. I realized years of practice. Esperanza. I said her name softly. What happened? She looked up, startled, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Nothing. I'm fine. Just allergies. I sat down beside her. The crate creaked under our combined weight. Allergies, I repeated. A wet laugh escaped her. Mrs. Ashford says I need to minimize my presentation, that I'm too loud, too much. She shook her head. I've been here 22 years. I've served 3 presidents. I helped say Les Laurent plan her 70th birthday party in the Rose Suite. And this woman tells me I'm not professional enough. I didn't say anything, just sat with her while she cried, while the boiler clanked, while the fluorescent tubes buzzed their flat, indifferent song. Grandmother's words echoed in my head. You learn who people are when they think no one important is watching. Let the rot show itself. I was watching. The rot was showing. But documentation wasn't enough. Grandmother had been specific about that. You don't just gather evidence. You let them build high enough to fall. Let them reveal exactly who they are to people who matter. Then you act. I wasn't ready to act. Not yet. But I was getting closer every day. The door to the service corridor opened, and footsteps approached, different from the shuffling exhaustion of housekeeping staff. These were deliberate, confident. Terence appeared in the doorway. He watched everything with eyes that seemed to be waiting for something. He looked at me, looked at Esperanza. His expression didn't change. Your grandmother cried in this same closet once, he said quietly. Different reason, same result. People with power making her feel small. Esperanza stiffened. You knew Celeste? 30 years. His eyes never left mine. She was a good woman. Understood that the people who build empires are the ones on their knees scrubbing floors. He nodded once, slowly, deliberately, and walked away. The silence he left behind felt different, heavier, like the air before a storm that hasn't quite decided to break. After Esperanza left, I added a new entry to the leather folder. Day 23, Esperanza. Verbal harassment regarding presentation and professionalism. Witness, none except myself. Perpetrator, V. Ashford. The first time I saw Callum up close was day 25. He was different from what I expected. Polite in a way that seemed genuine, rather than performed. Held doors for housekeeping staff. Said please and thank you like he actually meant the words. Asked a bellhop about his family and remembered the answer the next day. Strange behavior for someone married to Vivienne. I noticed him noticing me during that first week of observation. Nothing inappropriate, Just a glance that lingered a moment too long. A slight furrow in his brow, like he was trying to solve a puzzle he couldn't quite name. By day 30, he started bringing coffee to the service corridors. For the staff, he said the first time, leaving a tray of cups near the supply room. But his eyes found mine across the fluorescent-lit basement. Held for just a moment. I didn't take any coffee. Couldn't risk it. Taking coffee from Callum Mercer in a service corridor was exactly the kind of thing that got housekeepers fired. Esperanza warned me that same week. "Be careful," she said. Voice low. Mrs. Ashford notices things, especially when her husband is involved. 3 housekeepers have been fired in the past year. All of them caught Mr. Mercer's attention, briefly, innocently, and all of them were gone within a month. I filed that information away, added it to the pattern I was documenting. Later that day, I saw them together in the lobby. Vivian standing too close to Callum, her hand on his arm, her smile sharp as glass. He was looking past her, looking toward the service entrance, looking for someone. Vivian followed his gaze. Her eyes found mine across the expanse of Italian marble and crystal chandeliers, and guests who had never noticed the people who made their luxury possible. Her jaw tightened. Something flickered in her eyes. Not just anger, fear. She was afraid of a maid. She just didn't know why she should be. Day 30-1. Executive floor rotation. I pushed my cleaning cart through corridors that smelled like money. Fresh flowers changed daily. Central air humming at precisely 68 degrees. Carpet so thick my sensible shoes left no sound. The Aubusson rugs I walked on had been grandmother's pride. She'd sourced them herself from an estate sale in Lyon. Had them restored by specialists who charged more per hour than most people earned in a week. Now I was vacuuming them. The irony wasn't lost on me. I moved through the executive suite with practiced invisibility, dusted the Waterford crystal decanters, polished the brass fixtures, tried not to look at grandmother's desk, now Vivian's desk, with its fresh orchids and leather blotter and complete absence of anything that suggested actual work. "You missed a spot." I turned. Vivian stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the window I'd just finished cleaning. The glass was spotless. We both knew it. "I'll get it right away, Mrs. Ashford." I retrieved my cloth, wiped the already clean surface, felt her watching me with that particular satisfaction of someone who had learned to enjoy making others kneel. "Your name is Senna." She pronounced it wrong. Emphasis on the wrong syllable. "Unusual. Family name, ma'am." She walked closer. Her perfume filled the space between us. Pear and freesia, grandmother's signature scent, claimed from a bottle left in the executive bathroom. "There's something familiar about you. Have we met?" My heart slammed against my ribs. "I don't think so, ma'am. I'm new. Will there be anything else, Mrs. Ashford?" She studied me for a long moment, then smiled. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. "No, that's all." I gathered my supplies and left. My hands didn't shake until I was in the service corridor. Alone. Breathing the familiar bleach and lavender air of the staff level. She almost recognized me. Almost. 3 years ago, I looked different. Hair down instead of pulled back. Makeup instead of bare skin. A Givenchy gown in champagne silk instead of polyester that scratched at my collarbone. The memory came flooding back whether I wanted it or not. The Laurent Foundation Charity Gala. Grandmother's annual event. 800 guests in black tie. Champagne flowing. The ballroom glittering with old money and new ambition. I'd worn grandmother's diamonds that night. The ones she'd bought herself after her first million. Before anyone knew her name. They caught the light every time I moved, throwing tiny rainbows across my collarbone. "Let them see the air before they know she's inheriting," grandmother had said, fastening the clasp. "Watch how they treat someone they think is nobody important. Then watch how they change when they learn the truth." I'd circulated through the crowd like she'd taught me, smiled at introductions, deflected questions about my work, my family, my connections. I was just Senna, a friend of the family. No last name offered. And then Callum Mercer asked me to dance. He was tall, dark hair, eyes that crinkled at the corners when he laughed. He held me at a proper distance but leaned in close when he spoke, like what I said actually mattered. We talked for an hour, about architecture, the lost art of ornamental plasterwork, about books. He was reading Tolstoy for the third time, which I found either pretentious or endearing, about the way light hit the Chrysler Building at sunset, turning the steel to fire. We talked about everything, except money. He never asked what I did, never asked who I knew, never calculated my net worth through the careful triangulation of questions that society had perfected into an art form. He just talked to me, laughed with me, real laughs, the kind that crinkle your eyes and make you forget anyone else is in the room. And then his mother appeared. "Callum, darling, there's someone you simply must meet." The someone was Vivian, blonde, beautiful, wearing a smile that had been perfected in finishing school and sharpened in social warfare. 6 months later, they were engaged. I'd watched the announcement in the society pages, seen the photo, Callum in a tuxedo, Vivian in white, their hands clasped over a ring the size of a small country's GDP. He'd never known who I was. I'd never told him. Some nights, alone in my studio apartment with the clanking radiator and the view of a brick wall, I wondered, what if I'd said something? What if I'd mentioned grandmother's name? My inheritance? The empire waiting for me? Would it have mattered? Or would he have looked at me differently? Calculated? Like everyone else? I never found out. Gone. Whatever might have been, gone. Day 34. He found me in the East Wing corridor. "You were at the gala." Not a question. He'd cornered me near the service entrance, eyes searching my face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. 3 years ago, the Low to Rant Foundation event. My pulse hammered in my throat. "I don't know what you mean, Mr. Mercer." The woman in the champagne gown, dancing with me for an hour, talking about architecture and old books. He stepped closer. "She looked exactly like you. I'm just a maid. You're not in the employee directory." I looked. His voice dropped. "No Senna in HR records. No Senna on payroll. Your references check out, but the addresses lead to empty apartments. It's like someone created you out of thin air. Maybe I just wanted to disappear, or maybe you're hiding something." Before I could respond, something crashed behind us. Vivian stood in the corridor, my cleaning cart overturned at her feet, bottles of bleach and polish scattered across marble, glass cleaner pooling in a blue puddle. "Clumsy," she said. The word dropped like a verdict. Typical. I sank to my knees, started gathering the bottles. Guests emerged from nearby rooms, watched for a moment, then stepped around me like I was furniture, like I was nothing. Callum didn't move. "Help her," he said to Vivian. "Excuse me?" "You knocked it over. Help her pick it up." Vivian's face went white, then red. "She's staff, Callum. That's literally what she's here for. She's a person." I kept gathering, kept my head down, felt both of their gazes burning into the top of my skull. Vivian's heels clicked sharply as she walked away. I heard a door slam somewhere in the distance. Callum crouched beside me, picked up a bottle of furniture polish, handed it to me. "I don't know who you are," he said quietly, "but I know you're not just a maid." We stayed like that for a moment, kneeling on marble that cost more than some people's houses, surrounded by spilled cleaning supplies and the ghosts of 3-year-old dances. Then the door opened again. Vivian returned, seeing us on the floor together, faces inches apart, his hand still extended toward mine. Her face was a mask, and then the mask cracked. Something passed between them, a marriage conversation happening without words, his defiance, her fury, and underneath both, something dying.
That image stays with me. Senna, on her knees, gathering bottles of bleach, while guests stepped around her like she was furniture, and Vivian's single word hanging in the air. Clumsy. The cruelty of that moment wasn't the spilled supplies. It was the expectation that Senna would kneel, that she would gather, that she would say nothing. And she did, because she was still watching, still waiting. still letting them build high enough to fall. There's something profound about choosing to be invisible when you have every right to be seen. It takes a different kind of strength. The strength to witness without reacting, to document without defending, to kneel on marble floors you own while someone who doesn't know your name calls you clumsy. If you believe in the quiet strength it takes to wait for justice, please subscribe to join our Hearth family. Senna, you kept your silence through all of this. What finally made you decide it was time?
The walls started closing in, and the people who knew the truth started making themselves known. Day 37. The Henderson suite. I knocked twice, waited 3 seconds, announced myself. Housekeeping. Standard protocol. The door opened before I could reach for my master key. Mrs. Henderson stood in the doorway, wearing a cashmere cardigan the color of old pearls and holding a book with a cracked spine. She looked at me the way old money always looks at staff. Through, not at. Then she stopped. You look familiar, dear. My heart stuttered. I don't think we've met, ma'am. I'm new. New. She repeated the word like she was tasting it. Found it wanting. She stepped aside, gesturing me in. Come. The orchids need water. I pushed my cart into the suite. The Henderson family had been staying in these rooms since grandmother opened the hotel. Mrs. Henderson wasn't just a guest. She was the chairwoman of the board. And she had played bridge with Céleste Laurent every Thursday for 3 decades. The gardenia vase sat on the mantel. Below it, a portrait I'd forgotten was here. Grandmother at 40. Dark hair swept up, pearls at her throat. Eyes that could cut glass or warm a room, depending on what the moment required. I'd inherited those eyes. Everyone said so. Mrs. Henderson watched me set down the vase. My hands trembled, just slightly, just enough. You have Céleste's face, she said. Not a question. Around the eyes, the way you hold your shoulders when you're pretending not to be nervous. I kept my voice steady. I'm afraid I don't know what you mean, ma'am. She spoke about her granddaughter often. Said she was brilliant, stubborn. A pause. Said she worried the girl would inherit her pride along with her fortune. That she'd rather suffer than ask for help. The gardenia petals shook as I adjusted the vase. I couldn't look at her. Couldn't look at grandmother's portrait watching me from above the fireplace. I must be mistaken, of course. Mrs. Henderson settled into her chair, opened her book, and smiled. You're just the maid. The nod she gave me said everything her words didn't. She knew. Will there be anything else, ma'am? Just one thing. She looked up from her book. The woman who runs this hotel now, Mrs. Ashford. She's made some interesting staffing decisions this past year. I wouldn't know about that, ma'am. 3 housekeepers, all young, all pretty, all fired for minor infractions that wouldn't have earned anyone else a written warning. Her eyes sharpened. All of them had the misfortune of catching Mr. Mercer's attention. Briefly, innocently, but enough to trigger his wife's particular brand of insecurity. I said nothing. Waited. The pattern is quite clear. If one is looking, she turned a page. I imagine someone is, and I imagine the quarterly board meeting this Tuesday will be illuminating. I should finish my rounds, ma'am. Of course, dear. Another knowing smile. Just remember, some of us knew Céleste long before anyone called her Mrs. Laurent. We remember what she built, and we remember who it belongs to. I left the suite with my cart and my pounding heart and the weight of being seen pressing against my chest. The hotel felt different now, like the walls themselves were watching, waiting. Day 39, the service corridor, late afternoon. Callum found me again. He always found me. You're avoiding me. I'm working, Mr. Mercer. Callum. He fell into step beside me as I pushed my cart toward the supply closet. And you're definitely avoiding me. Is there something you need? Answers. He stopped walking. I had no choice but to stop too. I've been digging deeper. The fabricated background is too perfect. The empty apartments, the references that lead nowhere. Someone with serious resources created your identity. Someone who wanted you invisible but protected. My pulse hammered. Maybe I have powerful friends. Maybe, his eyes searched my face. Or maybe you're exactly who I think you are. And you've been watching all of us for reasons I can't figure out. And who do you think I am? He stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something expensive. Something that reminded me of charity galas and champagne and a dance I'd tried very hard to forget. I think you're the woman who disappeared 3 years ago. The one I looked for. The one who vanished like she'd never existed. His voice dropped, and I think you came back for a reason. Before I could respond, footsteps echoed down the corridor. We stepped apart. Terrence appeared around the corner, clipboard in hand, eyes taking in everything. Miss Senna, Mr. Mercer. His voice was neutral, professional. Mrs. Ashford is looking for you, sir. Something about the quarterly review. Callum's jaw tightened. He looked at me one more time, a look that promised this conversation wasn't over, and walked away. Terrence watched him go, then turned to me. She also said something else, he continued quietly. When the time came, I'd know, and I'd be ready. I stared at him. What are you talking about? Your grandmother, 3 days before she passed. His eyes held mine. She called me, said her granddaughter would come, said she'd be stubborn enough to do it alone, said I should let her until she was ready. My throat tightened. You've known this whole time, since the day you walked in. He nodded slowly. She trusted me to watch over you, to let you do this your way. But she also left instructions for when the moment came. What instructions? You'll know when it's time. He walked away, left me alone in the corridor with questions I couldn't answer and a feeling I couldn't name. Day 45. The locker room. I counted the incidents in my leather folder. 45 days of documentation. Every name, every date, every infraction. The pages were thick now, soft from handling. I was almost ready. Then I saw it. A smaller envelope, tucked behind my folder, the Bellamy Grand letterhead, the old version, the one grandmother had designed herself, and underneath it, handwriting I'd recognize anywhere, grandmother's script, shaky near the end, but still elegant. My hands trembled as I pulled it out. Someone had been in my locker, someone who knew exactly where I kept my secrets, and they'd left one of their own. Then came the morning of day 46. The train stalled. The service keypad malfunctioned. The forced entry through the lobby. 7 minutes of delay that Vivienne used as a weapon to destroy the threat she couldn't quite name. But as I walked away from the lobby, away from Vivienne's triumph and Callum's fury, I realized something. She hadn't destroyed anything. She just set the stage. The basement was empty. Everyone was upstairs, watching the aftermath of my public execution. I had the locker room to myself. I opened my locker, pulled out the leather folder, 46 days of documentation, every name, every date, every incident Vivienne had tried to bury. Then I opened grandmother's envelope. Her handwriting, shaky near the end, but still elegant. When you're ready, and you'll know when you're ready. Call this number. Terrence will answer. He's been watching over you since the day you arrived. Everything is in place. The board is aware. Mrs. Henderson has made her calls. The Mercers have been informed of the situation, though not your identity. Walk into that boardroom exactly as you are. Don't change. Don't dress up. Don't perform power. Be power. The same power I had when I signed my first deed in sensible shoes. Smelling of bleach. Invisible until I chose not to be. I love you, little one. Make them see. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Miss Laurent. Terrence's voice, no longer pretending. The board is assembled in conference room A. Mrs. Henderson is waiting. Your belongings have been moved to the penthouse suite. How did you know I'd call today? I didn't. But I've been ready every day since you arrived. A pause. Your grandmother said you'd know when the time was right. She trusted you to feel it. Ready. I looked at my reflection in the dented locker door. Polyester uniform. Sensible shoes. Name tag that said only Senna. No silk. No diamonds. No Givenchy gown. Grandmother had worn a maid's uniform for 15 years. Had signed her first deed in sensible shoes. Had built an empire while smelling of bleach and lavender and cleaning solution. I would reveal mine the same way. I'm ready. The elevator is waiting. Ms. Lo Rant. Executive floor. I hung up. Closed my locker for the last time. Picked up the leather folder with its 46 days of evidence. The elevator doors opened onto the executive floor. And for the first time in 46 days, I was ready to stop being invisible.
Friends, pause for a moment. The woman Vivian just fired, publicly, cruelly, over 7 minutes, owns every inch of that building, every chandelier, every marble tile, every contract that keeps Vivian employed. Let that sink in. 46 days of watching, 46 days of documenting, 46 days of kneeling on floors she owns, cleaning windows she paid for, being called clumsy by someone who doesn't know she's standing on borrowed ground. And now, Senna is about to walk into that boardroom in her maid's uniform. No costume change, no silk, no diamonds, just polyester and truth. If you're ready to witness what happens when the invisible refuse to stay hidden, please subscribe. Senna, we're ready. Take us into that boardroom.
The walk to the boardroom was the longest of my life. I moved through the hotel in my maid's uniform, one last time, past the service corridor where Esperanza had cried, past the supply closet where Callum had found me on my knees, past the spot in the lobby where Vivian had fired me less than an hour ago. Something was different now, the way I walked, the way I held my shoulders. Staff members glanced up as I passed. Francesca's eyes widened from behind the front desk. She'd watched me escorted out. Now she was watching me walk back in, heading toward the executive floor like I belonged there. I did belong there. She just didn't know it yet. The elevator opened onto mahogany and crystal. Grandmother's taste. Everywhere. The Obu sewn rugs. The Waterford decanters. The portrait of her at 40, watching from above the fireplace with those eyes I'd inherited. Callum was waiting outside the boardroom door. He stood with his hands in his pockets. Jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past hour. The gala. His voice was quiet. 3 years ago, yes, you danced with me. Yes, you disappeared. A pause. I looked for you. For months, and you were here the whole time. Watching. I had other plans. His eyes moved over my uniform. My name tag. The leather folder clutched against my chest. Senna Laurent, not a question. Celeste's granddaughter, the owner of this hotel, the woman my wife just publicly fired for being 7 minutes late. Yes. The word hung between us. 3 years of wondering. 46 days of pretending. All of it collapsing into a single syllable. She's not going to survive this. He meant Vivian. You know that. I know. And us? The word landed like something fragile. Something already cracked. Is there an us? Could there ever be? I looked at him. Really looked. The man who had brought coffee to service corridors. Who had defended a maid he barely knew. Who had asked questions just to have an excuse to talk to me. But also the man who had married someone else. Who had let his mother choose his wife. Who had stood in Vivian's shadow for 3 years without ever stepping into his own light. Let's see who you become, I said. When you're not standing in anyone's shadow, then we can talk about us. His jaw tightened, but he nodded, stepped aside. The boardroom door was heavy oak. Grandmother had chosen it herself. She used to say power announced itself quietly, with weight, not noise. I pushed it open. Light spilled into the corridor. The long table was full. Board members I recognized from childhood, from grandmother's dinner parties, from the reading of her will, old money, old loyalties, all of them turning toward the door. And at the head of the table, in grandmother's chair, Vivienne. Her mascara had run, tear tracks carved through foundation, making her look younger, more fragile than I'd ever seen her. She'd been crying, or performing crying. With Vivian, it was always hard to tell the difference. Mrs. Henderson sat to her left, book closed, hands folded, watching me with that knowing smile she'd worn in her suite. Ah, she said, there she is. The room went silent. Vivian looked up, saw me in my polyester uniform, my sensible shoes, my name tag that said only Senna. Confusion flickered across her face. What is she doing here? I terminated her an hour ago. Security should have. Mrs. Ashford. Mrs. Henderson's voice cut like crystal. Allow me to introduce Senna Lo Rant, Celeste's granddaughter, and the sole owner of the Bellamy Grand. The silence that followed was absolute. I watched it move through the room. The recognition. The recalculation. Faces shifting from confusion to understanding to something that looked a lot like vindication. Vivienne's face went white, then gray. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I walked to the table, placed my leather folder in front of her. 46 days of documentation, I said. Every wrongful termination, every discriminatory policy, every employee you targeted because they threatened your position or existed too close to your husband. Her hands shook as she opened the folder. Pages and pages of incident reports. Red ink circles around her name on every single one. Esperanza, 22 years of service. Harassed for speaking in her native language to a guest. I kept my voice level, calm. Dominique. Sent home without pay for her appearance. Camille. Terminated for requesting a single day off for her daughter's graduation. Renata. Written up for using the bathroom twice during an 8-hour shift. The board members exchanged glances. Mrs. Henderson nodded slowly. I could have revealed myself the first day, I continued. I could have walked in with lawyers and demands and all the power my grandmother left me. But she taught me something better. She taught me to watch. To let people reveal who they really are when they think no one important is watching. I looked at Vivienne, at her mascara-streaked face. Her trembling hands. The fear that had finally become reality. You revealed yourself, Mrs. Ashford. Every day, every cruelty. Every employee you broke because you were afraid. Afraid of your husband, afraid of the staff, afraid of anyone who might expose how little you actually belong here. Vivienne's voice cracked. I didn't know. That's the point. I stepped back. You didn't care enough to know. And now, everyone does. The boardroom fell silent again. Grandmother's portrait watched from above. Waiting, witnessing. Mrs. Henderson spoke first. The management contract will be reviewed. Mrs. Ashford's position is suspended pending investigation. All terminated employees will be contacted regarding reinstatement and compensation. Vivienne stood. Her chair scraped against hardwood. She looked at me. Really looked. For the first time since I'd walked through the door, she walked out without another word. Heels clicking. Not the confident rhythm I'd heard for 46 days. Something slower. Defeated. The door closed behind her. I stood before grandmother's portrait. Still in polyester. Still wearing sensible shoes. Still invisible in all the ways that didn't matter anymore. And visible in all the ways I'd earned. Grandmother always said power revealed is power understood. But I learned something she didn't write in the letter. Power restrained is power earned. I earned mine 46 days at a time. In sensible shoes, smelling of bleach. Invisible until I chose not to be.
Senna, before we close, I want to thank you for trusting us with this. 46 days of silence. 46 days of watching. And you chose to share what you learned here. At our hearth, that uniform, you could have changed into silk, into diamonds, into everything your grandmother built. But you walked into that boardroom in polyester, and that choice says everything about who you are, about who she raised you to be. Your grandmother built an empire. But what you just shared, that's her real legacy. The wisdom to wait, the patience to watch, the strength to reveal truth without cruelty. Thank you for spending this time at our hearth. If Senna's story moved you, please subscribe and share with someone who needs to feel seen today. Until next time, friends, may you always see the invisible, and may you never forget that someone is watching how you treat them.